Welcome to Retail's Most Wanted, the podcast that examines the latest issues related to organized retail crime and how retailers and policymakers are fighting back against today's organized crime syndicates. I'm your host, Marty Carpenter, and our guest today is Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell, who will tell us about her efforts to fight ORC and whether California's policy changes are sending more criminals her way. That's coming up next, but first, this word from our sponsor. Retail's Most Wanted is brought to you in partnership with LVT, securing physical environments through intelligent automation. Learn more at lvt.com. That's lvt.com. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell is an Arizona native and a veteran prosecutor who has dedicated her 30-year career to protecting families and prosecuting crimes against children. She's also served at all levels of the Maricopa County Attorney's Office and led teams of prosecutors for more than 20 years. Mitchell rose to national prominence when she served as nominations investigative counsel during Justice Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation hearings, and she is our guest today on Retail's Most Wanted. Rachel, thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, let's set a baseline here. Can you tell me about what's currently happening in Maricopa County? What's the state of affairs when it comes to organized retail crime?
Sure. Obviously, our big goal here is to make sure that we don't become like the videos that you've seen out of Los Angeles and Chicago, New York. And so when I took office 2.5 years ago, coming up actually on 3 years ago, I really beefed up the task force that we had within the office. I lowered the amount that would qualify them to get into that unit to be handled, and added to it. We put an investigator on it. And so we're taking this very, very seriously, and we're seeing results from it. We're seeing not only good sentences and results that way, but we're seeing the police beef up their efforts because they know that they're going to be prosecuted. So we're seeing those enforcement efforts going up.
You mentioned Los Angeles, and you mentioned a couple of other cities as well. I'm interested because we had a guest on just a week or two ago who talked to us about the proposition that they'd passed, essentially overturning what they had done that caused such a problem with organized retail crime. When California takes a step to fix a problem like that, I think we can all applaud that. But at the same time, you're a neighbor to California. Do you worry about, well, they go to the path of least resistance? And do you anticipate any kind of potential spike or increase in the challenge of dealing with organized retail crime because California took steps to fix their problem?
Actually, I'm very hopeful that that actually reduces it, because what we've been seeing is a lot of people coming over here from California thinking that, well, it's the same everywhere. And in fact, my chief of staff was on vacation in San Diego and saw that the DA there had taken out billboard signs saying, "This is not LA County. You're going to be prosecuted here," to warn them that it was different. And so when they come here, what we've been seeing is people who are shocked when we set bail, shocked when we require incarceration as punishment. And so I hope that they just get the message that this isn't going to be tolerated anywhere, and that it actually reduces it everywhere.
So you've taken a number of important steps. Your office has also hosted forums to educate retailers about reporting theft, essentially helping them be part of the solution. Can you just share with us what you've learned about the barriers to reporting and how you've gone about addressing them?
Yeah, I've come across retailers that are based locally, but maybe they're, a national corporation. And, privately they've shared their frustrations that their corporate offices have basically said, don't report. And some of that, I think, is due to the fact that the corporate offices, or maybe the majority of their businesses, are based in a jurisdiction that was not or is not taking organized retail crime seriously. And so showing them that, hey, we do take it seriously here, there should be a different response, was one thing that we've been doing. And the other thing is saying, if you're not part of the solution, you're really part of the problem, because most of these businesses exist in either a mall or strip mall kind of situation. And so when they're opening their business up to be targeted, they're opening everybody's business to be targeted, because they'll just go down the row and hit other businesses. So they need to know you're affecting your neighbors as well.
So you're working on building these partnerships. Can you give us an example of some of the successful partnerships you've developed between law enforcement and retailers that have helped you combat ORC more effectively?
Sure. One of the big partnerships that we've developed is with the Arizona Retailers Association. And we are in regular communication with them. And, one of the things that we can do with them is have them approach the retailers and say, you need to cooperate with law enforcement. But we also get information from them because they share information with each other. Because when one of the stores is hit, they notify the other retailers, and that way we can maybe not get the first store, but we can catch them on down the road because there seems to be a pattern to how they hit these stores. So that's been very, very helpful.
Can you walk us through like a significant ORC case that would maybe demonstrate for our audience the sophistication you found with these criminal enterprises, and then how your office built a successful prosecution against one of those?
Sure. I mean, one of the ones that I like to talk about just because the police gave it a clever name is out of Phoenix. It was Operation Makeup Breakup. And these were three women who were hitting cosmetic stores primarily, and two of them had actually put businesses in their houses in a residential area. And if I were to show you pictures of what their houses look like, you'd swear you were in a store. I mean, it was organized by, this is the lipstick section, this is the mascara. And so they were reselling this not only in the store, in their own stores, but also online. And to the best of our knowledge, it was about $600,000 worth of merchandise. We've also prosecuted an individual who was in 3 different states ripping off a home improvement store. And actually the other states were happy for us to handle it because they knew there would be consequences here. And so this individual had stolen about $1 million worth of merchandise, and we prosecuted him here, and now he's in prison. And those women as well that I just talked about, they're in prison.
When $1 million of merchandise, like that's such a big number, and the $600,000, these are gigantic numbers that you're throwing out. I just wonder when you go break up something like that, are you able to return any of that merchandise to the stores, or does that all go into evidence and they never, they're kind of still hurt that way?
A lot of times you can't, because a lot of times, you're catching them halfway through. Some of it's been sold. Depending on the type of merchandise, it may not be something that you can turn to the shelves. So somewhat you probably hope to get back, but a lot of it is just pure loss. And as you know, that loss is passed on to you and me, consumers.
So I want to talk about what lawmakers, policymakers can do or have done to help. What legislative tools or changes have been most effective in prosecuting organized retail crime cases? And what would you, if you could wave your magic wand, what additional tools would you put in place?
Well, one of the bills that we're running in front of the Arizona legislature this year is a bill that really addresses the repetitive nature of offenders. And, so these people may come in without any prior felony convictions. Maybe they have misdemeanor convictions. But those felony convictions are important to us in terms of them aggravating or moving the sentence to a higher bracket. And if they're just committing a spree of offenses, but they're never convicted, then they're treated oftentimes like first time or, not a chronic offender. And so we're running a bill that will allow us that when there are a spree of offenses to treat them like the chronic offender that they are. So that's one of the things. And obviously having a robust organized retail crime law that makes it a felony here is very important to us. We have that now, and so we use that tool frequently.
So working with the legislature, working with other policymakers, working with retailers and law enforcement. I love so much about what you're doing. I wonder, for someone maybe in your shoes in a different county, whether in Arizona or anywhere across the country, or anyone working in a county attorney or city attorney's office that wants to learn from you, what advice would you give to other prosecutors who want to strengthen their approach to dealing with organized retail crime?
Well, I would tell them, honestly, get out of your office and go talk to some of the retailers. I've gone out to, a pharmacy chain. I've gone out to a grocery chain. I've gone out to a retail chain and looked at the things that they're having to implement in order to prevent this type of theft. I mean, there's a retail store that I'm aware of that 1 in 5 items in their store walks out as a theft. And so the amount of counter theft measures that they have to put into place is just staggering. And so being aware of how they operate and just saying to them, how can we partner together? How can we share information so that we can get these individuals, not just for misdemeanor. This is not shoplifting, and that's really important for people to understand. This is not somebody shoplifting a candy bar. This is people who are taking items, reselling them, and using that funding to fund other criminal ventures. And all of that is being passed on to the consumer. So this is a very, very serious trend.
Is that one of the big reasons that you want to make this a priority, someone in your position or you specifically, to say, hey, there are problems that we have to deal with that get funded by this. So if we can pinch this off, this cuts the funding to things that are going to be a bigger problem for us. Like, this is one of those where you get sort of a multiplier. You take care of addressing organized retail crime, and it makes your job easier in other ways.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that some of the proceeds from this type of crime are used for drug smuggling, human smuggling, sex trafficking, and we have international gangs that are coming in to the United States that are committing various and specific types of retail theft, and being able to cut them off so that they can't make that money and then turn it into something else even more serious is extremely important.
All right, I'm going to get you out of here on this. I want to know what you think as far as upcoming trends that you might see in organized retail crime, and in particular in that, like, how is technology advancing or being orchestrated better to help you and help law enforcement combat organized retail crime?
Well, I mean, obviously, just the proliferation of cameras, not only within the store, but, real-time crime centers that several of our cities within Maricopa County have. That's critical to tracking people's movements. But, here's the thing, and as a prosecutor of over 30 years, I know crime moves, trends move, and so as things are developed, criminals find ways around them, and so you can never rest and think, well, we've got this one licked, because they'll find some other way to do it. So it's always staying abreast of current developments and responding to those.
Rachel Mitchell, Maricopa County Attorney, thanks so much for your work in fighting back against organized retail crime, and thanks for joining us here today on Retail's Most Wanted.
Thank you. My pleasure.
That's it for this episode of Retail's Most Wanted. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, LVT. And don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button so you can catch each new episode. We're going to post one every 2 weeks. We're also on X, we're on LinkedIn, and we're on YouTube. Links for all of those are in the show notes below. Thanks for being with us, everyone. And as always, keep up the good fight.